Today I'm looking at the 20 worst retcons in Star Wars history, from Obi-Wan's master originally being Yoda rather than Qui-Gon, to Rey being a Palpatine after formerly being declared as nobody. I'll also briefly look into whether or not the sequels are going to be retconned by Disney. At 20 is Star Wars name change. So for this one we have a pretty basic entry where the original movie in 1977 was called just Star Wars because George Lucas didn't want to confuse fans at first, but this was of course changed to Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope once we got the later installments in the franchise. And next up at 19 is Anakin Jedi Knight. While Anakin is granted the status of Jedi Knight at the beginning of the Clone Wars in the 2003 Clone Wars micro series, in the Legends book Jedi Trial, Skywalker was knighted at the end of the Clone Wars. And I guess that's better than in the new Clone Wars show where we don't see him being knighted at all. I mean, ultimately this isn't that important, but it was kind of cool to see in the 2D show, for sure. At 18 is Star Wars Legends. So Star Wars Legends was once the expanded universe, which itself retconned the Marvel comics from the 1970s before it, and a lot of fans have had a lot of outrage over this, as there are many legendary books to come from this era, such as the Darth Plagueis book, the Darth Bane book, and many other novels like Heir of the Empire that people were very angry were not considered canon anymore when Disney acquired Star Wars in 2013. And at 17 is Luke and Leia were to be trained. So remember that scene from The Empire Strikes Back where Yoda says,
"There is another."
Well, in the original movie, Lucas literally just put that in there to show that Luke is expendable and that, there could be another character if he dies here to add a little bit of tension there. However, in the book A Certain Point of View, the idea that Yoda wanted to train Leia, whereas Obi-Wan wanted to train Luke, was thrown in there, and this kind of retcons the original meaning behind this when they hadn't even planned on Leia being Luke's sister yet. At 16 is Tan Skywalker. So no, this is not just Anakin Skywalker with a tan. This is actually from the 1978 comic The Constancia Affair, where it is revealed that Luke Skywalker's parents are named Master and Mistress Tan Skywalker. This was of course immediately changed with Anakin being name dropped in Return of the Jedi and Padme Amidala being realized as the twins' mother as early as Attack of the Clones. Next up at 15 is Rey's backstory. Rey Palpatine went from being nobody in The Last Jedi to the granddaughter of Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker. While this isn't technically a plot hole or anything, as Kylo Ren could have just been lying here, it is strange that the films took this part of the story in two completely different directions, and it is very concerning that for the main character of the sequel trilogy, there was not an overarching plan for them, and that they're bouncing back and forth between ideas for this character, which really just shows how big of a mess this trilogy was on paper. And at 14 is Han shot first. So of course in the scene on Tatooine in A New Hope where Han and Greedo meet up and Han ends up killing Greedo, this has actually been changed multiple times over the special editions because George Lucas didn't want Han as a cold-blooded killer as he is in the original version where he shoots Greedo before Greedo even fires his gun, but arguably this better fits his character arc because Han goes from this, smuggler without mercy to a heroic rebellion general by the end of the trilogy, which is why this has been a big controversy for many years. And at 13 is Darth Maul death. When making The Phantom Menace, this was meant to be the death of Maul. However, the Clone Wars changed this and actually fleshed out his character into an interesting yet somewhat pathetic creature that always wanted more and more power and was willing to twist the entire galaxy around him to get there. And Dave Filoni actually asked for permission from George Lucas to do this, which he of course received. At 12 is Emperor Palpatine death. While Palpatine dies in Return of the Jedi and the Dark Empire books and Rise of Skywalker, he was brought back via the use of cloning. And at 11 is Boba Fett death. While Boba Fett dies in Return of the Jedi, in the Book of Boba Fett and many Legends media sources as well, he crawls out of the Sarlacc digestive system. So sorry for dropping all those random deaths that got retconned, but I mean we did kind of have to talk about them at some point or another. I mean they are pretty important. and a lot of fans know about this, so there you go. Now real quick, let's look at, are the sequels from Star Wars being retconned? Now, while it is very true that the fan backlash to the sequels has been well documented, and they haven't really touched anything with Rey or Finn or Kylo Ren since then, at the same time, it is really not true or confirmed at all that the sequels are being retconned, or that Disney is completely against doing things with those characters, especially considering the Daisy Ridley movie that has been in the works for quite some time, and then also the fact that the Mandalorian series, as well as some of the other shows like The Bad Batch, have actually been setting up things from those movies, especially the elements revolving around Palpatine, cloning, and the First Order in general. Back to the list, at number 10 is Anakin's Force Ghost. So Sebastian Shaw is actually this actor right here who we see in Return of the Jedi, playing Vader once he is unmasked at the end of the movie, and it turns out that he also played the Force Ghost here, but later this was changed in 2004 to Anakin Skywalker when he was younger, so basically like Hayden Christensen in Revenge of the Sith, and many fans didn't like this because it sort of contradicts the rule that the Force Ghost just stays the age they are. However, in my opinion, this works the best because this is the last time that Anakin was in the light side, at least for a long time, and it just bridges the gap between the original trilogy and prequels even more and brings the whole story full circle, which I think is a very nice touch and a change to the movies that I do not mind. At 9 is Obi-Wan's Master. In The Empire Strikes Back, Obi-Wan asks Yoda,
"Was I any different when you taught me?"
This implies that Obi-Wan was actually a direct apprentice to Yoda when he was in fact trained by Qui-Gon, and Yoda simply taught him as a youngling. In the context of this scene, it doesn't really sound that way because Obi-Wan is directly asking and talking as if he had a more personal relationship with Yoda than if he was just trained a long time ago as a youngling. 8 is Darth Vader as Luke's father. So it turns out that in A New Hope, Obi-Wan says that Luke's father was betrayed and murdered by Vader, suggesting that they are two separate characters, and there really was no sort of moral or philosophical elements here that were foreshadowed or hinted at. It was pretty, straightforward. Someone betrayed your father. However, in The Empire Strikes Back, when the twist of Vader being his father was added, it was later explained with Obi-Wan on Dagobah in Return of the Jedi, where he says that from a certain point of view, Vader was a different person, and this of course spawned the whole from a certain point of view meme, and I do find it funny how half of these are on either Dagobah or Endor at night. At 7 is Luke and Leia's siblings, the two characters that were originally part of a love triangle until Return of the Jedi are Luke and Leia, and in Return of the Jedi it was revealed that Leia is the sister of Luke. However, them making out in The Empire Strikes Back kind of suggests that this wasn't always the plan, and yeah, let's hope it wasn't, because otherwise, that scene would be pretty suspicious for George to be making, looking back on it. At 6 is the Death Star weakness. Now this one is more of an addition than it is a weakness, but in A New Hope, the major design flaw in the Death Star that allows Luke Skywalker to blow it up is never fully explained. However, with the release of Rogue One, it was added that the conflicted engineer, Galen Erso, planted this design flaw, which would in time save the rebellion. But real quick, here's the Christian advice of this video. If you want to get back to the main video, you can skip to this time right here. Now today, I don't actually know the exact chapter or verse I found this from, but it was somewhere in Sirach, I believe, or at least somewhere in the Apocrypha, where basically it was stated that one of the things that God doesn't really value that much is, your appearance. You shouldn't really focus all the time on your appearance, and this is very difficult in a society now that really focuses on looks maxing and all of these sort of things, and I myself do find myself being pretty insecure a lot of the time and really worrying about, ooh, how's my hair looking, how's my physique looking, my outfit, all these things, right? But sometimes you have to realize that there are more important things to prioritize over this according to the gospel, and therefore that's something you should probably keep in your mind as you move forth now. Sorry, I don't know the exact verse for that, but I just remember reading that while going through the Apocrypha. And getting back into the video, I just want to say real quick, remember you can comment on this video if you had any video suggestions, any questions about this video, or just want to tell me how your week has been, and I upload normal videos every Friday. 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also shorts every single day, but yeah, back to the video. At 5 is the Ruusan Reformation. When Obi-Wan tells Luke that the Old Republic stood for over 1,000 generations, this was taken more literally in the expanded universe as meaning 25,000 years, but when Palpatine says,
"I will not let this republic that has stood for 1,000 years be split in two."
the Ruusan Reformation was created to explain that 1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, the Republic was reorganized to settle differences for the order of the system. And at 4 is Aurebesh. Originally in A New Hope, during the tractor beam scene, there was text on the panel reading power and tractor beam, but when Aurebesh was introduced in Return of the Jedi, this shot from episode 4 was changed to the accurate language, and text in Star Wars has remained the same ever since. At 3 is Leia's mother. While in Return of the Jedi, Leia says that she remembers her mother as being very sad, this was retconned from being about actual life experiences with Padme to being from a connection in the Force to her in the novels Shattered Empire and Leia, Princess of Alderaan. This had to be done after Padme dies during childbirth during Revenge of the Sith. At 2 is the original Clone Wars. In the Heir to the Empire book series by Timothy Zahn, written in the early 1990s, the Clone Wars were described as the Republic fighting against mad clones who were controlled by clone masters. This of course changed when it was revealed that the Jedi actually fought alongside the clones rather than against them. And at 1 though, the craziest retcon in all of Star Wars is that Obi-Wan's brother is Owen Lars. In the Return of the Jedi novelization, Obi-Wan states that Owen Lars is in fact his brother, and this almost would have made sense considering that Luke's uncle knew him so well, but this was of course changed to Owen being the stepbrother of Anakin rather than that of Obi-Wan's brother. If you like this video, then you might also like this one right here, where I looked at every battle from Star Wars and ranked all of them from worst to best. But yeah, see ya.